Hello. This presentation is designed to give you a basic understanding of MiMort, the Michigan Mortuary Response Team. MiMort itself is very complex. There are many pieces that can be assembled together or individually. This presentation will outline many of the tasks that MiMort can assist the medical examiner in completing, as well as the structure and request process for MiMort. MiMort may be requested when there is a mass fatality. So what is a mass fatality? A mass fatality is any incident in which the number of fatalities exceeds local and/or regional resources. That could be for human remains recovery, storage, transportation, identification, or return of loved ones for final disposition to family members. During a mass fatality, the medical examiner may choose to request assistance from MiMort. MiMort was established in 2007. By design, it is requested by the local medical examiners based on the need, and it does not self-deploy. It is a specialized team of volunteers to support mass fatality response needs, and it is a collaboration between many areas, including the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, specifically the Bureau of Emergency Preparedness, EMS, and Systems of Care, the Michigan Funeral Directors Association, the Michigan Dental Association and the Dental Identification Team, Disaster Incident Recovery Team, and the Michigan State University Forensic Sciences. The MiMort mission is to provide dignified and respectful fatality management services during disaster incidents. MiMort will assist and support local medical examiners, local and state law enforcement, local emergency response organizations, and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services with identification of the dead, preservation of evidence, and the return of decedents to loved ones. MiMort can be deployed altogether or as sections as needed. Therefore, it's scalable. It can provide technical assistance and personnel as requested and available to recover the remains, identify and process deceased victims, gather information for surviving family members, and provide documentation. Medical examiners are required by law to conduct investigations into the cause of death in cases of persons who come to their death suddenly, unexpectedly, accidentally, violently, or as a result of any suspicious circumstances. This duty does not change when victims are multiple. So the medical examiners for the county in which the deaths occurred retains jurisdiction over the bodies. The request to activate MiMort actually starts with the incident itself. There is an impacted medical examiner or examiners depending on the size of the incident. They will work with local emergency operations center. Those emergency managers will work with the Michigan State Police District Coordinator for their region, and they will work with the State Emergency Operations Center. The Regional Medical Coordination Center and each of the healthcare coalitions would be involved, and they would be communicating in conjunction with the State Emergency Operations Center with the Community Health Emergency Coordination Center, which is the medical branch of the EOC. That's where the decision would be made to activate MiMort. To be a member of MiMort, you sign up in the Michigan Volunteer Registry. Through the MVR, that's where we can maintain the list of the volunteers, and it provides a means to do a complete background check. It provides a means to activate and to notify volunteers, and it does provide legal protections for all parties. MiMort is controlled and activated through the Incident Command staff. They use the Incident Command structure, known as ICS, to be scaled to the medical examiner's needs. It includes the MiMort commander, the operations section, planning section, logistics section, and the administration and finance section. MiMort is supported with the state and federal funding and is managed by the Bureau of Emergency Preparedness, EMS, and Systems of Care. That support includes housing and maintaining equipment, helping with planning, education, training, and exercise development, and supporting the command staff. The command staff of MiMort has various components, including the commander, administration, the Disaster Portable Morgue Unit, Volunteer Management, Disaster Assistance Recovery Team, Remains Management, Morgue Operations, Victim Information Center, and the Morgue Information Center. Those will be explained on future slides. When an incident happens and the medical examiner requests help and MiMort is deployed, depending on the needs, it could be deployed to various locations. At the site of the incident is where the Disaster Assistance Recovery Team would be located. Somewhere else is usually where the Disaster Portable Morgue Unit is set up, including Remains Management and Morgue Operations. Close to that would be the Morgue Information Center, and if a Family Assistance Center is set up, that is where the Victim Identification Center would be located. Upon receiving a request for deployment of MiMort, a conference call or video link would be established. Partners in that communication would include the requesting medical examiner, the Bureau of Emergency Preparedness, EMS, and Systems of Care, the MiMort commander, and it might include other partners, including local and state emergency management. The medical examiner will be asked to identify what resources they are requesting, as well as the known situational elements. Those may include how many decedents are suspected, the location and identification to be deployed. Based on that conversation, as well as permission from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, a GO team will be deployed as needed to determine suitable deployment locations, work with local authorities, including the medical examiner, to scale the deployed assets as needed. The GO team would consist of the MiMort commander or their designee, someone from the logistics section, and representatives from the Bureau of Emergency Preparedness, EMS, and Systems of Care. The GO team will work with the medical examiner to scale the needs of the deployable assets. This will include where activities such as the Morgue and Family Assistance Center could be set up, and work with local authorities on housing, food, etc. for the volunteers. The GO team communicates with the Community Health Emergency Coordination Center, known as the CHEC, throughout the process, so that the CHEC can scale the response to what is needed, including requesting volunteers, just-in-time ordering of supplies and equipment, and deploying the equipment. It will be at least 24 hours after a morgue site has been located before work can begin. Please note, if this is a large incident that will need setup of a morgue that is external to the medical examiner's office, this site must meet certain safety and security criteria. Additionally, finding a location that is willing to house this type of operation can be difficult. This may result in delays of the deployment of MiMort. It is best to pre-identify locations that the morgue can be set up whenever possible. The next few slides will give an explanation of the Disaster Portable Morgue Unit, the Disaster Assistance Recovery Team, Human Remains Management, the Morgue Operations Team, the Family Assistance Center, the Victim Information Collection Team, and the Morgue Identification Center Team. The Disaster Portable Morgue Unit, known as DPMU, is all the stuff that makes up MiMort, including the morgue supplies and equipment. It also includes a cadre of trained volunteers who can unpack, set up, and repack everything during and after the deployment. All that stuff is maintained in trailers in a ready state for deployment. Items are inventoried regularly, and supplies that need to be replaced are maintained. The Disaster Assistance Recovery Team, or DART, supports local medical examiners and primary investigators through scene documentation and the recovery, collection of human remains and personal effects at the mass fatality scene. Those collected will be transported to the Morgue Operations section. The Remains Management section will take custody from DART and transport to the Morgue Operations. They will track the remains in the morgue. They also store the Mobile Emergency Remains Cooling System, known as the MERC, in trailers so they can be used. And they complete the handoff to funeral homes after decedents are identified and the families are informed. Morgue Operations is comprised of multiple smaller pieces. Those include triage, the personal effects, fingerprinting, photography, DNA, pathology, anthropology, dental, and X-ray. Not all would be needed depending on what the remains are. During morgue operations, remains travel from station to station with the goal to determine identification, cause, and manner of death. The type of stations can vary based on the needs of the medical examiner. MiMort has equipment and volunteers to assist with DNA, anthropology, pathology, dental, fingerprinting, x-ray, and more. As the remains travel from station to station, notes are recorded which document any findings. That paperwork will eventually travel to the Morgue Identification Center that we will talk about later. Remains are returned to remains management after completing all steps in morgue operations. The Victim Information Center is generally located away from the morgue and the incident site. It is often co-located at the Family Assistance Center. The primary goal of the VIC is to gather information from the next of kin that can help with the identification of decedents. This can include details like the clothing that was worn, tattoos, jewelry, etc. Additionally, DNA can be collected as well as photos and any medical records that the family may have access to, or where those records could be located. Information that is gathered are entered into the Victim Information Profile known as the VIP database. This information will be matched with morgue information in the Morgue Information Center. The Morgue Information Center is generally located close to morgue operations. Some of the tasks in the MIC include assigning remains numbering for tracking, creating paperwork files, doing the data entry into the Victim Information Program from the post-mortem data, handling medical records and medical record follow-up, doing receipt and distribution of ante-mortem records, and they have experts who can handle fingerprint ante and post-mortem comparison and dental ante and post-mortem comparison, and handles records management. Once all information is obtained, the information from the VIC and medical providers, along with the information from the morgue ops, are matched. Suggested matches are brought to the medical examiner for final identification. The medical examiner determines who will make the final notifications, although MiMort has volunteers that can help with this process. Once decedents are identified, all the sections of MiMort are back together and families are contacted. The families get to determine the final disposition. Decedents are released to the funeral homes of the families choosing for final disposition. People are the most important part of MiMort. We cannot do it without the volunteers. If you or someone you know are interested in volunteering for MiMort, please sign up at myvolunteerregistry.org. When signing up, you will want to select MiMort as an organization you would like to join. From there, complete a few incident command courses and you are a member. Of note, all volunteers have a background check run when joining the MVR. Additional background checks will be run prior to deployment. During an incident where MiMort might be used, it is the registry that will be used to contact all volunteers. Therefore, it is important to maintain and update the MiVolunteer records for all those that are in it. Additionally, it is very helpful for us if you would please participate in our biannual call-down drills. During these drills, which normally occur in the spring and the fall, a call-out goes to all MiMort volunteers asking if they could deploy to an incident if one was occurring. By clicking yes or no at the bottom of the email, you are responding. It is easy but so important. This models what we would do in a real incident. Additionally, every few years we run an event for volunteers to allow them to learn and help make MiMort better. Thank you to everyone who is current or future volunteer in MiMort. We could not do this without all of you. This was a very high-level overview of MiMort. To learn more, you can visit the MiMort website at www.mimort.org. If you are in the registry, you could go to the documents sections to look at MiMort documents, or you can contact Jessica Gould at the Division of Emergency Preparedness and Response at Gould, G-O-U-L-D, J3 at michigan.gov. Thank you for listening.